1.1 Themes and Concepts of Biology Part 1 by Jaden Song.
And Alessandra Cal. Opening. What is biology? Biology is the study of life, and there are different branches of life that we study in biology. An example is virology, which studies viruses. Viruses attack living organisms, reproduce, and cause diseases, but they're not considered under the criteria of life. Viruses actually do have some characteristics of living entities, but lack some, so they are not considered under the criteria of life. New organisms are discovered every day as biologists seek to answer questions about them.
Properties of life. All groups of living organisms share several key characteristics or functions. They would be order, sensitivity or response to stimuli, reproduction, adaptation, growth and development, regulation, homeostasis, and energy processing. These 8 characteristics serve to define life.
Order. Organisms consist of one or more cells. Simple single-celled organisms are complex. Multicellular organisms have advantages over single-celled organisms. The cells can be specialized to perform specific functions. Some cells are sacrificed in certain situations for the good of the organism as a whole. Below is figure 1.2, which is a toad that represents a highly organized structure consisting of cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems.
Sensitivity or response to stimuli. Organisms respond to diverse stimuli. An example would be plants can bend toward a source of light or respond to touch, such as in figure 1.3. Chemotaxis, bacteria that move away or towards chemicals. Phototaxis is bacteria that moves toward or away from light. Movement toward a stimulus is positive. Movement away from a stimulus is negative. And figure 1.3 shows the leaves of this sensitive plant, Mimosa pudica, will instantly droop and fold when touched. After a few minutes, the plant returns to its normal state.
Reproduction. Single-celled organisms reproduce by, first, they duplicate their DNA, which contains genetic material, and then they divide it equally while the cell prepares to divide to form two new cells. Multicellular organisms, which are made up more than one cell, produce specialized reproductive cells that form new individuals. During reproduction, DNA contains genes that get passed down to an organism's offspring. The genes are the reason that offspring, first, belong to the same species, second, have similar characteristics to the parents, and characteristics can include fur color and blood type.
Adaptation. All living organisms exhibit a fit to their environment. Adaptation. A consequence of evolution by natural selection. All adaptations enhance the reproductive potential of the individual exhibiting them, including their ability to survive or reproduce. Adaptations are not constant. As an environment changes, natural selection causes the characteristics of the individuals in a population to track those changes. An example would be the heat-resistant archaea that live in boiling hot springs.
Growth and development. Organisms grow and develop according to specific instructions coded for by their genes. These genes provide instructions that will direct cellular growth and development, ensuring that a species' young will grow up to exhibit many of the same characteristics as its parents, such as figure 1.4, and although no two look alike of these kittens, they have inherited genes from both of their parents and share many of the same characteristics.
Regulation. Even the smallest organisms are complex and require multiple regulatory mechanisms to coordinate internal functions, such as transport of nutrients, response to stimuli, and coping with environmental stresses. An example would be organ systems. They perform specific functions, such as carrying oxygen throughout the body, removing waste, delivering nutrients to every cell, and cooling the body.
Homeostasis. To function properly, cells need appropriate conditions, such as proper temperature, pH, and concentrations of diverse chemicals. These conditions may change regularly or one moment to the next. These organisms can maintain internal conditions within a narrow range. But how? It's through a process called homeostasis or steady state. Which is the ability of an organism to maintain constant internal conditions. Many organisms regulate their body temperatures through a process called thermoregulation.
This is homeostasis continued. Organisms such as polar bears that live in the cold climates. They have body structures that help them withstand the cold and conserve body heat. Organisms in hot climates also have methods like these. Example would be perspiration in humans or panting in dogs to allow to shed excess body heat. Figure 1.5 it shows mammals living in ice-covered regions such as polar bears maintain their body temperature by generating heat and reducing heat loss through thick fur and a dense layer of fat under their skin.
Energy processing. All organisms use a source of energy for their metabolic activities. Some organisms capture energy from the sun and then later convert it into chemical energy in food. Others use chemical energy from molecules that they take in. Figure 1.6 is shown below. A lot of energy is required for a California condor to fly. Chemical energy derived from food is used to power their flight. These California condors are an endangered species as well.
Thank you for listening.